I think it's fair to say that I'm a massive fan of this franchise, but I still have so many of the games I need to play. As I'm beginning to wind down Final Fantasy 12, I started thinking about what Final Fantasy I wanted to dive into next. Usually I play these two of these games at a time, so it's like right now I'm playing 12 and 15. And I've thought about, why don't we go back to where this all started with Final Fantasy 1? I mean, I've not played any of the Pixel or classic games. The oldest game I've played in the series so far is 7. But I really wanted to go back to where it all began to see how much of the DNA would still be there just playing the original Final Fantasy, which came out in 1987 on the NES. And of course, I bought the Pixel Remaster collection of the first 6, and the games look absolutely gorgeous. And I imagine they reflect the sort of nostalgia goggles, if you will, to what you would expect these games to look like in your brain. But so I played the first hour of this game, and a lot happens. The story is simple, the gameplay is simple, and in a way, after playing Final Fantasy 12, one of the most complicated but yet rewarding games I've ever played, it's sort of refreshing. So the game starts out, you get to name your party and pick out their classes. And the thing is, it's like with Final Fantasy, I've just been used. I mean, you can in some of them rename characters, but they start off with the names of each characters, and you can change them. Like in 7, you don't have to be called Cloud; you can really name him anything. But with your 4 party members, there's no suggested names. You're just told to name them. Now, what I understand is that there are canon names for them, like the Red Warrior is Zest, but I went with Zest, Flo, Sid, and Dawu. So I picked out classes. I basically went for like a classic sort of D&D type thing, and I always like to have magic heavy class too. So as I went with a warrior, a white mage, a red mage, and a black mage. So basically, I wanted a fighter that could deal a lot of damage. I wanted a support class, then I wanted one that was sort of a jack of all trades. Then the black mage that could cast magic that could affect a bunch of enemies at once. So you start with these 4 characters, and you go to this kingdom, and in this kingdom there is a legend of 4 heroes of light that will appear to defeat the dark. And it turns out you are the 4 heroes of light because you have these 4 crystals, and you meet the king, and the king tells you that his daughter has been kidnapped by a knight named Garland. And Garland is a fallen knight. He used to work for the kingdom, and you were basically sent out on a mission to take him out. But the thing is, the game very quickly, it's not that this is the whole thing of the game. This is just the first hour. You would think that I mean, Breath of the Wild, the whole thing is that you are to rescue Princess Zelda from Ganon, and of course you have all this other stuff to do. But the map is literally closed off. You have one dungeon to go to, and you fight through it, and you eventually find Garland, and you fight him, and you beat him. And that's the first hour of the game, is learning the mechanics. Now, the magic is very different from what the series would typically be known as. I mean, obviously each game changed, but there's no MP. It's actually kind of set up sort of like Dungeons and Dragons, where you have spell slots. So each spell doesn't like cost a certain amount of MP. You just fill up a spell slot if you use a level 1 cure, fire, thunder, or whatever it might be. So that was a bit of an adjustment for me. But basically, when you start at the first town, I would highly recommend buying spells, buying equipment, upgrading your armor, and trying to make sure that you have enough potions to go through this first dungeon. It's not super complex, but it's fun nonetheless. And that's the key word, is the game is fun and it's charming. I love the reorchestrated music for the Pixel Remaster, and it feels like a classic old school game. And I mean that in the best way possible. And I was all smiles during this first hour. In fact, I mean, even though I'm only an hour into the game, I think that I would put this up there with Final Fantasy VII for this being a good first Final Fantasy for new fans. Like, I would recommend this one. And basically, from what I've learned online, is that this is short compared to the rest of the series. From what I understand, that you can beat this game anywhere between 9 to 18 hours, depending on what your play style is, which is short for a Final Fantasy game, like I said. But even just first impressions, I would recommend this to new fans. It's a great starting place. The battle system isn't too complicated. It's shocking how much of the franchise mainstays are in this game. The only things that appear to be missing so far are chocobos, and of course, I added my own guy named Sid. I don't really recall when that appeared in the series. I think it was Final Fantasy III that the first Sid appeared, and I think chocobos might have also appeared. But it's a charming game, and even though I haven't gotten to play the other 5 games in the Pixel Remaster, if they're as good as this first hour, then it was well worth the $75 I paid for them, and I would highly recommend them, especially if you can get them on your Switch. So, for me, the first hour of Final Fantasy was exciting, refreshing, and simplistically charming. And it's a testament to how the series will continue on and how it will survive.